We think we're probably around the seventh or eighth episode of our Fireside Chats. We've got two guests with us today. We've got Joe Baracata, and we've also got Michael Ghegan. You guys just recorded an absolutely fabulous song, Kindness. And I was telling Joe earlier that I can't get it out of my head.
Oh, that's great.
And it's, it's a couple of things. First of all, the song is great. Second of all, the message is apropos of the times we're living in and hopefully exiting from. And it's really, like I was talking to Joe earlier, it's a do unto others, right? I mean, just if you put out kindness, you get kindness back. You don't put out kindness, you get something else back. But so Joe, you wrote the song and you play most of the instruments, but you called your old buddy in to play some amazing sax work on it, right?
Yes, I wrote the song a year ago, and Mike doesn't know this. When I wrote the song, I envisioned Mike doing some kind of horn on it anyway. But I did have my friend Rich Gertler play piano, and Kelly Nolan sang the ooze, the background vocal. But it was pretty much done, and I know how busy Mike is, and I just sent him a random text going, Mike, you think you might want to lay down a track? And he said, absolutely.
But
I think Mike just said, what vibe you looking for? And that was it.
Well, the song should usually tell you what it wants you to do.
Yeah. So you go into it. So what's the process for you, Mike, when you go in like that? Because I understand you came in and most of the tracks were down already, right? Like
I was the last. I was the last thing. I think my job as a soloist is to, I would say, use silence as my most powerful tool, especially in pop music.
Right.
Pop music, the art of playing a solo over pop music or rock music is to tell the best, simplest story that you can that goes from point A to point B in 8 measures.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because the singer's taking care of telling the story.
Right.
The musicians are filling all the holes and laying down the groove and making you unconsciously move. And the soloist's job is just to add that little bit of flavor on top of it without ever stepping on anyone's toes.
You know what I love? What you just said brings no ego to the game. You're about the whole product as opposed to you, which is really nice. Oh, I didn't even see that. I was wondering why you were moving the camera just now.
Too much ego will kill your talent.
Well, Mike, I remember you saying, like, what are you looking for? And I was like, Englishman in New York. And I go, just dance around my vocals. And you're like, okay.
That's it.
And I like that comment about, and you hear it with some of the best artists, like you were talking about using silence, right?
Yeah. There's an incredible amount of power in a pause.
Right.
Right. You don't need to, and I think it's a very funny symptom of horn players is to try to go for that high thing when actually the most important thing is just the rhythm that you're playing around with.
Right.
Right. If we're playing straight ahead jazz, you have so much more time to tell your story. But in a pop song, it's all about just laying down something that has like a symbiotic relationship with the singer's melodies.
Right, and by timing what you're doing, you're making the singer, the guitar player, the drummer, the keyboard player sound better because you're picking where you're either going to accentuate something they did or let them shine in that moment because you'll come in the next moment.
Sure. Yeah.
That's really cool.
It's great that, Mike's talking about simplicity because the song is really one chord progression with an added extra chord in the chorus. And I remember writing it a few months ago. I worked on it whatever night. And if you notice, it breaks every time before another vocal comes in. So it breaks and it lets those, so the song's constantly move. It's an extremely simple song, but there's a lot going on in there. And I noticed a lot of times some of the best songs are the simplest songs. I mean, obviously Rush has, in certain bands, have been able to write progressive rock commercial songs, but simplicity is always key. And a lot of, one thing Mike does great, and Mike's done gigs with us, and and again, I can rip on the guitar, and Mike can rip on the horn, but simplicity is key and being tasteful. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it can ruin a song if you're not being tasteful.
Yeah, don't play jazz over a pop song.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
I always wanted to do Eddie Van Halen taps during a Bruce song, but I might get rock starred out. It might not sound right.
Yeah,
That's
man.
funny.
That's ice cream and chili flakes.
Yeah.
Just don't go.
Yeah, that wouldn't. That's a good metaphor.
I've never even tried
it.
it.
Yeah, that's a very good metaphor. And how have you guys, or how did you guys meet, and how have you known each other over the years?
We met through my my crew, my closest friends. They have a place down in Avon every summer, and I'm usually gone every summer. And then
touring, right?
Yeah, and then when I would come home, you want to hang out with your people. So I go down and meet them, and then they would always inevitably end up. They became friends and great fans of Joey and Saxman and the guys, and they would always hang out at the boathouse. So that's where I ended up meeting them.
Oh, that's great.
I think I came out and jammed you guys up one night.
That was that night. I remember.
I just showed up after a gig and I had my horn. I was like, "You mind?" At least I asked.
You remember what I said to you? I remember that night. Mike came in with the whole crew, and Cassie said, "You know who Mike is?" And did you ever meet Mike? I said, "No," but I knew who Mike was because we were actually on a gig once in downtown, and I knew other bands he played with. And it was funny because Mike's like, we're like this with anyone, by the way, but someone like Mike that I knew was a great player. Mike was like, "You mind if I sit in?" I was like, "Do whatever you want." I think we jammed.
Oh, that's great.
Great time.
And Mike, I understand you've played with some pretty serious folks up there. I don't know who's more impressive, the president or Aerosmith, but I'd go for Aerosmith. I don't even know what the president is.
I'll tell you what. I mean, listen, I know that we're in a very, very political hotbed these days, and the one thing that I could say about the Clintons,
is that who you played for? Okay.
As much as people want to, listen, you feel the way you feel about your politics, but you're not going to find anybody who did not like to hang around this guy.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Because it was, I mean, I've even read many articles about him where world leaders who just didn't agree with his politics were just like, but man, I really enjoyed hanging out with him and having dinner.
Right.
And,
so give us the context. How did this happen?
The context
First of all,
was.
Hold on. He's a shitty saxophone player, isn't he?
Yeah, man. But I mean, he just pulled that rabbit out of his hat at the last minute for Arsenio, and I got to say that rabbit did pretty well.
It worked.
Yeah.
They slapped some sunglasses on him, and he got, he locked in with a lot of people on that, but it humanized him. The way that happened was there's an artist named Pat McGee. He's a Warner Brothers artist. He's been one of my closest friends and musical colleagues for about 25 years. I met them when I lived in Richmond, Virginia, where they're out of. And I lived in DC for 3 years. And Pat, I guess one of the guys on Clinton's staff was a huge fan of Pat McGee. Okay. And we played basically the White House for the end of term, the second term for the Clintons. Clinton, Al Gore, John Podesta, chief of staff. They rented out and shut down the 930 Club.
Oh, I've been there many times.
Yeah, which is DC's version of Irving Plaza.
Yep.
And and basically they just shut down this great rock and roll club for the entire White House Clinton administration staff.
Oh, that's a great gig. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's very cool.
So what's funny about it was we didn't expect them to show. The place was raftered, Secret Service, everything. It was out of a movie. And we're up there and we're playing the set and people are they're partying. And we finally come to the realization that they're not going to show up. The Gores aren't going to show up. John Podesta's there. And then, so we start getting into it. We start having a few drinks and really playing a concert.
Right.
And they show up. They all showed up, and I had this moment of a window of about 10 minutes, and Phil just pointed at me and was just like, "Let me see that horn." And we just had 10 minutes of talking before the band started. It was crazy. And he was one of the most just cool, gracious people I've ever met.
You know, it's funny on that note, you always hear people do business with people they like. And even when Bush ran against Al Gore, people wanted to hang out with Bush and drink with him.
Yep. Yeah, certain people have those kind of personalities.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah,
so when did you live in D.C.?
Say again?
What years did you live in D.C.?
I was in D.C. from 97 to right before 2000, and that's when I moved to L.A.
So I was going to ask if you didn't overlap with go-go then, DC go-go music.
No, but I'm very familiar. Michelle Indegiocello is one of my favorite artists in the world, and she was huge on that go-go. I'm very familiar with that go-go scene.
Yeah, Chuck Brown was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And Junkyard Band. You ever see the Junkyard Band?
No.
Oh, fabulous, fabulous stuff. I'm a big fan of DC go-go.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, DC, for all its fantastic attributes, it wasn't a music scene except for that. And it also had this really underground jazz scene.
Yep, they had all that. Yeah.
Yep.
I played the Thurston Block Party about 2 blocks from the White House.
Nice.
When I was in college with my shitty college band.
Okay.
So you played for the president. When that question came up, I didn't know which one. And then you toured with Elton John, but I got my notes. Elton John, Aerosmith, and there's a bunch of TV stuff. What led to that?
The TV stuff. Well, I guess I can always say that the right place and the right time plays a lot. When I went to Rutgers, went to Mason Gross, and when I was a senior, when I was 20, my mom got a phone. We didn't have cell phones, so my mom got a phone call. And she was like, "You have to be in the city for an audition." And I was like, "Well, what's it for?" She goes, "I don't know. Just go to the city."
Is that her voice? Like kind of like that?
Yeah, it's great. It's pretty great. And so I went to the city, and I didn't know it was a quiet audition for Elton John.
Wow.
And I guess, what I found out was I had just done like my first record, somebody else's record, but I was pictured on the cover. Like the band was on the cover, and I didn't know any of this.
Yeah.
So I show up, and these people are just like, "Okay, go in front of that screen. We're gonna take a bunch of pictures, take some video. Please play this, play that." And I was just like, "Okay," but I was like, what is this for? And then they're like, "We'll call you." And then I got shuffled out the door, and the next day they were just like, "Oh, you got the gig." I was like, "What gig?" And it was they were like, "Be on this television set where it's for Elton John. You're gonna be filming." Wow. And it was great. I spent like a week with him, and we filmed. It was actually a really big deal. Remember that Coca-Cola commercial that it had like Marilyn Monroe and Humphrey Bogart? It was like the first CGI commercial.
Oh, yeah.
It was this giant production, and we were there for a while doing that. And I was the sax player, and it was really great. It was.
So you were not just audio; you were on camera.
Yeah.
That's probably on YouTube too, right, Mike?
It was really cool. I haven't ever looked for it, but yeah, that was.
How can you never look for that? That's cool.
Oh, yeah, it was super cool. But it was one of those things where it's like I went right from that back to school, back to class, back to doing weddings, back to doing gigs for no money, so that's just the way it goes, man. It goes.
Yeah. And then Aerosmith, how did you get connected with them?
Aerosmith was a summer tour. Like one summer it was Pat McGee and Aerosmith, and one summer it was kind of the same lineup, and then Aerosmith got switched for Allman Brothers. So we did a lot of great like summer tours, like shed tours, like the PNC would be, or Wolf Trap.
I love Wolf Trap.
Yeah, we sold out Wolf Trap a bunch of times because he's.
Now, so when you say we sold out Wolf Trap, is that you with your band opening for them?
Yeah, that was Pat McGee. Pat McGee and Aerosmith were on tour, and then with the Allman Brothers. But then after, because my way of going wasn't, I didn't ever want to, like, Joey's a leader. He's a band leader. I never wanted to be in a band.
Okay.
I never wanted to have a band. I wanted to be myself as like, I'm a trained SEAL. You know, I do what I do with the sax and keys and vocals, guitar, whatever you need me to do. But I never wanted to be in a band.
Okay.
Because I wanted to have my options. I wanted diversity.
Are you married? Is that your deal? Are you single because you don't want your options?
No, that's a whole other topic. That's another Zoom meeting.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
I'm gonna put my Kevlar vest on.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, there's been a lot of. I've been very, very lucky. You know, I think that stuff as a sideman, which is what I am. I'm a soloist.
Right.
And it took a long time to figure out exactly what your role is. And once you kind of weed out what your weaknesses are and figure out what your strengths are, the path becomes a lot more clear. So like, you know, the Justin Timberlake gig and Elton, you know, all these pop things, Supertramp, it's kind of having a goal, focusing on it, and making sure you're there early, stay late, and learn everybody's parts on every instrument.
That's right. And then you're there to make everyone else look good.
My job is to make the guys whoever's name is on the marquee. My job is to prop them up and make them sound as great as they can, and also realistically make myself irreplaceable.
Right. And that's by getting there early, staying late, working hard,
That's it. Learn everybody's parts on every instrument.
Right.
So you know what's great? Yeah. And Dave, I think this ties into what Mike's talking about. Mike, who was the guy that took over the Tonight Show? Not the main horn player. There was another guy.
After Doc, you mean?
Not after Doc, because it was Bradford Marsalis. Who took over after him? The name escapes me, but he wrote a book called No Traffic on the Extra Mile.
Oh, Guitarist.
Yeah, what was his name?
Oh, now that I'm
I'll
think of it. I'll think of it
inside too.
As soon as we stop.
You don't mean from the Roots.
No. I'll text you guys when we're done. But my bass player gave me that book because he knew I was into like personal development books and stuff like that. And I think he bought it for $1, and that was one of the best books I read. Number one, because it's the music business. And really? what he spoke about was how if you do things the right way in life, which ties into the song, your connections grow. And I think Mike had a career like that because Mike's a nice guy. And he spoke about great musicians that were just not nice people that wouldn't get gigs. And then there were musicians that understood, you know, how to have people skills.
Yes.
But that book is incredible because, you know, talking about going the extra mile, and it's a great quote too. There's no traffic on the extra mile.
That is a great quote.
You know, this adage was put into my brain early by someone. I can't remember who said it, but the bottom line was, and this was before I really experienced touring in close quarters.
All right, yeah.
And it was, you got two choices on who you want to be. You can have a room full of musicians who all know each other, and they know that there's one of two people coming in to fill that last role. And you could bring in I'm only using him as an example. You could bring in the Yo-Yo Ma of just the ultimate player, just the virtuoso player. But that virtuoso player is a dick.
Right.
Male or female. Or you could bring in the stunningly great, solid player who basically is right there with that other person, but not a celebrity. And they walk into a room and everybody goes, "Hey!" You know, it's like Norm from Cheers walks in the room. You want to be that person.
Yep.
You want to be, because when you're living on a tour bus and you're driving 12 to 16 hours a night, country to country in Europe, and everyone's in each other's faces 24 hours a day at some point, you have no space, you have to be invisible.
That makes perfect sense.
You know, we call that in our band, and it took me years to understand. You know, it took me a long time to understand, like, as I used to be the kind of musician where I was so intense, and if I didn't feel a musician was on my level, I wouldn't play with them. You know, like I was, to use the word Mike used, I was a dick in my 20s. And then as I realized I had a regular job. I was a mailman, and I couldn't stand the bosses. They treated you like shit. So it started to dawn on me, like, the hang factor means more than the musicianship in a band. Like, for me, a band leader, if I'm looking to hire someone in a band, I can have someone that's looking to join my band that, like Mike says, might be the greatest player in the world, but if they're a dick, I'd rather take someone that's good. They might not be, world class or the greatest, but I'd rather have someone in the band that I want to hang out with every day.
And that is universally applicable in any field. I'm a lawyer. I'd rather be partners or have an adversary who's a decent person. And even in trial, if I'm relatable and I'm nice, that's relatable to my jury. That's relatable to my judge.
Absolutely.
And the technical skills, that's only a small piece of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about, or as they would say, it's all about the hang.
It's all about the hang, right?
Dave, is it true that all lawyers want to be rock stars, really?
Yes.
Yes, it's true.
It is true. Yeah. Well, you know what? No, I'll qualify that. It's all litigators. That there's a certain personality of a litigator. If you're a transactional attorney, you're kind of mellow. You're like an accountant. But if you're a litigator, you like to be in front of people. You like to speak. You like to be I'm on stage as a lawyer. I'll give a lecture to a few hundred lawyers, and I'm comfortable doing that, which is when you have a good speak. I just gave, with my partner, we just gave a couple of speaking gigs at New York Law School by 150 lawyers listening to us. And if it goes well, which it did the last couple of times, it's a set. I haven't done stage like you guys. I've done little stuff like in college, but I would imagine it's a similar feeling that you get a bit of a high if you're on, you conveyed the message that you want to convey to people. You feel good. You get a lot of positive energy back from the crowd, and it's very positive. So yeah, there's a lot of parallels there. I'd rather be a rock star.
Absolutely. But I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, if you're a trial lawyer, you are an entertainer.
Yeah.
And the better suited you are to entertain people and really grab their attention and tap into their emotions, then.
And I'll even take it a step farther. Just like being a musician, that was a burp I saw.
Yes.
I had a few today. But as a lawyer, I have to be honest and organic because I'm not relatable. In other words, I never want to convey a message that isn't sincere. So and just like in music, you guys have to be sincere. Your music has to be real. It has to be organic. Just like this conversation has to be, or it's not good. We're not coming in with a script. We're not planning anything. We're having honest conversation. And I think with a lawyer, if we're presenting, if we don't believe what we're saying, I hope it doesn't pass muster with the jury, and it doesn't,
Gotcha.
Yeah. And all these things are universally. It's pretty cool.
I think that goes a long way, and Joe knows this better than anyone because it's how you build your following. If you're honest, if you're an honest player and an honest singer, people are gonna know it. If you're not, they are gonna smell it within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They're gonna know you're dialing it in.
They know when you're phoning it in, yeah.
I know when you're phoning it in, for sure.
It's funny, and that's the challenge, I think, of being a performer because, we all know this because anything you do a lot, again, like, Mike said he likes diversity, and that's awesome. So if he's touring next summer, he's probably playing a different set of music. What I had to learn over the years is there's some staples, and Mike could laugh because he's played with our band and many bands around here. American Girl, Rosalita, blah, 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 that you always play. So I used to hate playing certain songs until I realized, I remember saying to myself, wait a minute, from a songwriter perspective, I didn't have to write this song. I did not have to write the song. I just have to perform it. And I can get paid for playing American Girl every time I play it. So it taught me to enjoy the songs because I went through a period in the cover band scene where I really got sick of doing it. I mean, I liked going out and having a few drinks and everything, but I wasn't satisfied musically anymore. like I was just like, I felt like I was at a dead end. I wasn't recording original music. My original music never took off. But I have a totally different, and thank God I have this attitude to where like I enjoy the songs that get a reaction. So even when I'm sitting down with someone I'm doing a private event for and they pick songs they want and they say they hate so-and-so song, I might say to them, like, keep in mind, like you might hate that song, but the other 150 guests that are there are probably going to go crazy. And so I've learned to not take personal what cover songs I'm playing. Now, with an original song, it's different. I mean, like this song I never played live, or most of my other originals I never did. And I always wondered, like a Van Halen, like when I see them play Ain't Talking About Love, I'm like, aren't they sick of that song yet? You know, it's like,
Maybe they are.
there's so many good B-side songs they can play, or any band for that matter.
Yeah.
Oh, they must be.
I mean, that's a good point, David. Maybe they are, but I'll tell you what, if I'm going to see Sting, who is, you know, one of my heroes,
Right.
then, and he's said this, he's just like, I feel an obligation to play Roxanne because they want to hear that. They want to hear message about. I wrote these, you know, these muscular songs came to me and I put them out there and that's what they want to hear. I'm going to throw in something new. I might play something from my 16th century lute music album, but whatever.
Right.
It's like, I'm going to give them the meat and potatoes because that's what you go to see Paul Simon, man. You're going to want to hear 50 Ways.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and
That's why they call it popular music, because those
Right.
are the songs that are popular.
and it comes back to what Joe's saying. It's a mindset, you know. And if you don't have the current Joe mindset, there will not be positive energy flowing back from stage to audience and back to stage, I would think. You know, if you're not appreciative of the fact that you get to play, whether it's you're in a cover band playing a song and, oh my God, I get paid to play music, you know.
Attitude.
Yep, yeah.
I-
Or if you wrote it, you know, oh my God, I get paid to write a song I wrote. Like either one is great. And
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of us forget that we're in the service industry.
right.
And I'm reminded every damn day that I work in the service industry. I am servicing the happiness, hopefully, of other people
Right.
by
That's it.
doing what I selfishly love to do.
Right. And you know, like we think about what's the expression, the customer's always right.
And it's a very tough job, Dave. It's
I'll
very,
tell you what, David, I am
lot of
not
pressure.
I'm not going to give the customer that much credit.
That's my field within reason. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. That's what we were talking about. We were talking about that earlier, Mike, where when you do a gig, I mean, Mike's played in front of massive audiences, but when you do a gig and the energy, the high you get from a gig, that next gig, you're looking for that same high, like a drug, like a heroin addict. And it's such a crazy thing because I was saying, Mike, how playing live, it's a roller coaster. You might go from the greatest gig in the world to the next gig is like totally laid back. And again, that's where your mindset comes in to, you know, to keep that performance going. And there's some, I've seen some great bands, you know, whatever their name, I've seen some really good bands play in front of 300 people and then 3 people and had the same energy. And it always impressed me.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
I love small
job,
house.
right?
I love intimate acoustic. If I had my druthers, I would spend the rest of my life playing for 60 people
Yeah.
in a room that sounds perfect.
Right.
You
Where
know?
you can hear that one little reaction where someone's appreciating something subtle that you just did.
Yep. I want the stage to be 6 inches
Yeah.
off the ground. Everyone is comfortably seated. Everyone has a view of the artist, and there is perfect sound. 60 people. Perfect.
What's your favorite
Those
club?
are good gigs.
Club?
Or what's venue? Just venue.
I mean, there have been so many. I mean,
Or what fits that paradigm? You know, in this region, what's a venue that sort of fits that paradigm?
well, for me, it's a little different because I don't play with a band.
Right.
I'm either doing the sax keys vocal thing with somebody or just doing saxophone. But my favorite thing to do when I'm home is this little club in Fairhaven called Naboo.
Okay.
And it's where basically I sit at the piano and have some espresso martinis and heckle my audience for 3 hours.
Oh, that's great. I'm a big espresso martini fan.
Yeah.
That is
So that's basically what it is I sit around and lovingly abuse my audience.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And I finally got to see you this winter.
Yeah. Came out for date night.
So
Yeah.
which is the bigger
A little wine.
Are you more sax, more keyboard? What is both?
You know what? I grew up playing saxophone. Keyboards came as an adult, but I became so obsessed with them that,
Same level.
keyboards, Hammond organ, that's what I do.
Right.
So I'll just do completely different personalities. I'll go out and do the piano, the piano singer guy. And then if we're on tour, it's sax, piano, singing, harmonica, whatever it calls for.
And what kind of gigs have you guys done together?
Aside from the gigs that Mike came up and just jammed, I mean, we played the Columns together. Mike's played at some local bars. He's done a few weddings with us.
Mm-hmm.
Mike actually has done weddings as a sax player, and he did one wedding as a piano player, which just shows you and I mean, all the weddings were phenomenal. There's a few videos of us with Mike, in the crowd, and I remember we did one video, Mike. That was almost like a Houdini trick, where it was a 5-hour wedding. And it was right next door to Nauvoo, the place he was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And literally, I don't think you missed a song. Because when we went on a break, Mike went to Nauvoo and sang songs. And then we're just about to go on. I looked to my right, and Mike's like, ready.
Yeah, I double booked the night because.
Oh, wow. That's a great story.
the place, a fantastic restaurant, the Raven and the Peach. And it's just a place in Fairhaven. And this restaurateur owns these two places, and the Raven and the Peach is like a 4-star. It's fine dining, and Nauvoo is just this super great weird. I mean, you're in a ski lodge in Fairhaven.
Okay.
So it's this weird vibe with a giant fireplace, and there are no piano lounges left.
Right.
Where just comfy leather chairs and a great bar, and so that's like the vibe. And Joe had this marathon wedding booked across the street, and I was like, yeah, it's a mile from my house. But what I'm gonna do is I already had this other gig booked, so I was like, I'm gonna basically run back and forth across the street and do
That's like out of some kind of like some kind of Neil Simon movie.
Hey, Dave, I've never asked Mike this question. Mike, me as a band leader, or any band leader at a wedding, they're like, what did you think when you texted me that I was thinking? Because I was like, how the hell is he going to pull this off? Like, holy shit.
Well, I built in a back door to it. And what I did was I hired another artist.
Yes, Scott Elk, right?
To be there in case your wedding demanded something different of us that I had covered.
That's pretty cool.
So it was no skin off my back. 2 people made money that night.
Yeah.
And the audience was entertained in both places.
What would have been
that wedding was one of the best weddings of the year too. I mean, from the second we went on the dance floor, Mike was out there with the other horn players, and we had such a great time.
That was fun.
It would be
it was a great time.
Footage of security cameras to see you going back and forth across the street.
Sweaty guy in the parking lot.
Yeah, probably in a tux, right?
Never.
No.
That was probably a first. Yeah, we don't wear tux, just black suits.
Oh, okay. And what about you, Mike? What do you like for a gig like that? Do you wear anything in particular, or you just wear what you can wear?
You mean for mine? I'm like my friends, my close people know that I have my own style, but I take clothes maybe a little too seriously. So
okay.
I dress for the gig.
Oh, okay. All right. So you do.
Dress for the gig. I always dress for the gig.
Right. And that's part of the being a responsible professional that you're talking about.
Listen, if people are going to come out and see you on stage, you better represent yourself.
Right.
Don't act like you're there by mistake.
Right. Or that it's a hassle to be there.
People should leave there going, people should leave your gig telling 6 people, I can't believe what I just saw.
Right, right. And that's what keeps people like Joe so busy, keeps people like you so busy, right?
The proof is in the pudding.
It's really a cool theme that I've been getting, because we've had the show on, I guess, about 15 months or so. And the people who are successful, they're fun-loving people. They're partiers, but when it comes to the business, they take it very seriously. They do it right.
Business is completely separate from your personal feelings towards it.
Yeah.
You, like I said, and this goes back to the service industry comment.
Yeah.
Listen, there becomes a point where, hopefully, in your artistic career, you get to be selfish in a way, but you're never allowed to be more selfish than the needs of your fans or your clients.
Right. And never, I would imagine, never crossing that line into being self-indulgent, right? Or not.
Well, I mean, sometimes, are we talking about in your musical choices, because one of the great things about artists are that they are a little out there. They are a little crazy. They stick their foot in their mouth. I mean, Brian Kirk is the reason I moved back to the East Coast. He's one of my best friends. I was in his wedding. We were together most of the day today. He is probably one of the top 3 entertainers I know.
Okay.
Out of anyone I've ever worked with, because he has the ability to go on stage and draw in a couple thousand people, stick his foot as far into his mouth as he can by saying the wrong thing, and then win everybody back.
Right. But
he's unique, Brian.
Is there a tension as an artist between what we're talking about, being professional, giving, like having the positive attitude about the song that maybe artistically, I'm reminding myself in the back of my head that, this is great. I'm getting paid to play music, but I fucking hate this song, right? And you're balancing all that, right? So when you have the mindset where you're being the consummate professional, you care more about your audience than yourself, but you have that artistic impulse. I want to do this to this song because it will give me artistic satisfaction. Is it ever at the expense of being the professional in terms of giving the audience that which they are expecting and that which at least they think they want? Or are you the artist that says they think they want that, but I know they'll be more nourished by my music if I do this? Are those tensions there?
That's the question for Mr. Baracata, because it's a perfect question for him, because he's not only a self-indulgent shredder, which is part of the way you grew up, but now you are the band leader.
Well, it's funny you say that, Mike, because when I first came on the scene like 20 years ago, I wasn't doing that many guitar solos because I just figured it wouldn't go over. And then I saw other bands and I was like, all right, time to rip up and get my crybaby going. But there's this, we obviously do Uptown Funk, and Mike, I think one of the best jams I had in that song, like where it breaks down, I just, again, I'm the band leader, I guess if I want to call it, and it works. I go into a solo there. It's in D minor. It's a great key for a guitar player, but it's always a good back and forth with the horn player. And I remember Mike did a Columns gig with us. And even though we had tons of people partying, drinking, and dancing, I mean, me and Mike probably went back and forth for like 3 minutes that night. And there is an audience for musicians out there, which is great, even in a party scene like the Jersey Shore. So, I mean, listen, especially sax players, Mike, I give anything. And the sax man was teaching me. I learned how to do a C scale. And I was like, I don't know if I'm down for learning a whole new instrument, even though I can play drums and other things. But nobody gets love like a sax player. It's the, I sort of laugh when we do certain gigs, because the next day I'll say, wow, they really dug my guitar solos tonight. And they didn't mind if I stepped on the sax a little bit. And then there's some nights where I'll go into a solo and I can see kids look at me with a beer going, we want the sax player. And I'm like, all right, tonight's all about the sax, and I don't even touch the guitar.
Yeah, but that's because they love Rich, because that guy he's magic.
Yeah, without a doubt, they love Rich. But even when you play, I mean, just the instrument itself, it's
there is. I'll tell you what. I mean, I hated carrying that thing to school when I was a kid, but my dad was right. He was right. It took until I was, in my late teens, early 20s until I was like, oh, I get it now.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
I get it now.
Well, just like I can either lug, back in the 80s, I had an 8-piece Tama drum set with a double bass drum. I can either lug that, or I can lug one guitar and a combo amp. So
Right.
once I started moving around the gigs, I'm like, thank God I'm not a drummer anymore.
Right. Then the sax, you're not carrying much around, I guess.
These days?
Yeah.
Well, my thing is, the tricky thing is, like, I can't allow anyone to touch my horns.
Okay.
I can't, even though it's an available option, it's just such a personal thing.
Yeah.
That what I do, the way I travel, is my stuff, my luggage, my road case, which is my instruments, and my personal stuff, which is also in Pelican cases, just goes. It just looks like stacked army stuff. Like I have 3 Pelican cases that go out with me. One has my saxophones and some other auxiliary stuff, and then for every gig, there's backline, there's keyboards, there's everything set up for you, what you need. Your personal stuff, I mean, we have a tech who takes care of the basses and the guitars and the keyboard stuff, but my horns and my harmonicas and my flutes, nah, I
That's
can't.
all stuff where you're literally swapping spit, so to speak. Like it feels like it's a more intimate kind of thing. And a guitar is pretty intimate, but that seems more intimate.
It is. I mean, pre-COVID, it's just like, I'm still not. A sax player is never letting anyone play their saxophone.
Right.
A flute player, we would be able to swap off on that flute, just give a little wipe off. But like saxophone is one of those few instruments where you just can't let anybody else. You can't let anybody touch it. Well, if that thing hits the floor, you can't retune it.
Right.
It's
Speaking of, Mike,
like some grubby.
Mike, mention this sax man story.
What's that? What's that?
When you called me for Rich's number to fix your horn?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, it was a nightmare. The first night I got back from a Supertramp tour last year, I do a lot of sax and DJ, like house music stuff, because it's just so much fun.
Okay.
And DJ, there's great interaction between the two of you. The crowd just feels it. And I was over in Red Bank doing a gig with a really great DJ that I love, DJ Ghegan. And this drunk girl got up. 2 minutes I took to go pee. For 2 minutes the whole night, I put my sax up on the deck right next to his turntables. No one's getting up there. No one. This is a 1955. 1955 Selmer Mark VI. Like, this horn is, out of like the Indiana Jones archives. And so I come back and my horn is on the floor. My microphone case is everywhere. My horn's like dented and I'm just like, just some drunk girl tried to crawl up on the DJ booth, and when she was falling, she grabbed my saxophone.
Oh my God.
And that's the first night I got home. So it was just like, I called Joe. My repairman was not in the country. And I went over to Saxman's house, and we had a hang like we always do. And he's a genius, man.
He is a genius.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
He can almost fix anything, Richie. It's amazing.
For a hip replacement next time.
That is pretty cool. So let me ask you this. So what do you guys have going on? We're hopefully slowly going to start exiting COVID. What's next on each of your timelines, if you know?
Well, I personally don't know, but we have a lot of private events and a lot of weddings got postponed. So, a lot of couples are calling me, they're hoping for like August. A lot of even most of our July, August weddings have been moved. So it looks like to me, September, October, we will get really busy.
And you're generally a well-booked guy, like a ridiculously well-booked guy, right?
Yeah, we had like 52 weddings this year, which is more than I've ever done. I think the year before we did like 42. So
It's a
I'm
lot.
always a goal setter, and like, you know, I mean, I seem like a train wreck because I have a $400 guitar that I leave in my car, whether it's 40 below or 600 degrees, and the thing never goes out. So I'm the opposite of Mike. But as far as when my goals are for, like, you know, certain things with business or the band or whatever, you know, because honestly, the bar scene's very like, you can be extremely booked one year and then the next year you're not booked at all. So
Okay.
I realized that the future of private events was probably a better, you know, avenue for us to take. But yeah, I mean, I hope it opens up, and we actually have an outdoor gig on the 20th at my friend Tim's house. It's his wedding day. So we're going to do a trio in the yard, and then next year, literally a year later, we'll do the actual wedding.
Oh, very cool. And Mike, what do you have going on?
Our entire 2020 world tour that was sold out is canceled.
Oh,
So, you know what? That's great. I mean, it's not great, but it's completely fine because what it has, it's kind of figure out what's next. And what has happened is I've gotten into all of these new relationships, collaborating with different people. And I've got a new video coming out of a Chapman thing that I just redid, and I'm working on all the publishing to that right now. But I'm very excited. We're gonna have to talk because when something nice, and I think I'm leaving this week for Europe for recording with. You ever heard of Pooh Bear?
no.
Jason, he is Justin Bieber's main writer, and so his writing team. I was with these guys in Paris a few months ago, and we're finishing the sessions in Europe the next 2 weeks. So we're gonna all meet up and fly over there this week and finish up 2 weeks of writing. And
That's cool. And I'm finding a theme that everyone I talk to, including we had an actor, Alex Scooby, on recently, their creative juices really, you know, like through the pandemic, their creative juices are kind of invigorated, stretched in directions that maybe one wouldn't have planned on, but they benefited from.
well, I mean, think about, and this is for anyone in any vernacular of their life. What's the most common thing that adults say? I don't have time.
Yeah. Right.
Man, I've been trying to paint that shed. Man, I've been trying to learn that language. Man, I've been trying to do what, and fill in the blank of whatever you've been trying to do that you have no do. You know, any artist.
I've been trying to record this song called Kindness for a year. That's the only reason why the song got recorded.
You know what? That was the most perfect segue. 'Cause, you know what I love
Literally,
about the
doing
shows?
that time.
I love the shows when we can't stop talking because a great guest, interesting, and it. You know, I shoot my goal is about a half hour for the fireside chats. I don't know how long. I'm looking at my computer. We've probably done about 45, 50 minutes. I could do 2 hours with you guys. This was really nice.
Thanks so much.
Oh,
Yeah, we had a great time.
This was absolutely fantastic. So Joe, how do we find you? Give us your website.
You can go to joebaracata.com.
Spell it,
And
please.
the song's going to be on all the streaming outlets by the time this is aired. So I haven't really set that up. I've been focused on finishing it, getting that video done. Shout out to my friend Tim that helped put that together. And so that's how you can find me at joebaracata.com. On Instagram as Joe Baracata Band.
And it's B-A-R-A-C-A-T-A, right?
Now, here's a tip for any young kids starting out the career. Make sure your name is pronounceable. That's probably, I should have used my middle name. No one can mess that up.
That's funny.
You know how many times we've driven to gigs and on the sign it says Joe Bacadudo, or it's almost like it's a comedy at this point.
Mike, how do we find you?
Basically, any bar in Red Bank.
Okay. Whether you're playing or not, right?
Website is absolutely embarrassing. I haven't updated it since 2013. And that might be a stretch because social media took over. So what I started doing was just putting whatever dates I have online.
Okay. So and it's Michael Ghegan, Ghegan, right?
Yes, it's Irish. It's from County Wicklow, and it used to be Mac Go Ghegan, and then when my great grands came over, they chopped it down to GHE. So it's at Michael Ghegan, or
There you go.
so Instagram's at Michael Ghegan. And
Very good. Well, I wish you guys a great night. This was a lot of fun.
thank you. What a pleasure. Thank you, Counselor.
Likewise.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks, Mike.
Raise your glasses. We'll do a little toast.
Cheers, guys. A little summer shanty there.
All righty. You finished yours. Look at you.